where are you watching from? As the night deepens and secrets unfold, I have just one question for you. Where in the world are you watching this story from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. And if you don't want to miss what happens next in this thrilling tale, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Tomorrow, a new chapter awaits, one you won't want to miss. See you then. I never thought the person I trusted most would be the one to sell me. It happened on a cold autumn evening, the kind where the air smelled of burning wood and the sky was heavy with rain. I sat curled up on the worn-out couch of our tiny apartment, sipping on a cup of tea, unaware that my life was about to change forever. My sister, Rachel, stood in front of me, her hands twisting nervously in the fabric of her sweater. Her blue eyes, so much like mine, were filled with something I couldn't quite place. Regret? Guilt? Fear? Maybe all of them. "Emily, you have to do this," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the distant hum of traffic outside. I frowned, setting my cup down. "Do what?" "Rachel, you're scaring me." She inhaled sharply, running a hand through her messy blonde hair. "I messed up. The debts, they're too much. I tried everything, but I can't fix this. There's only one way out." The room felt suddenly smaller, the walls pressing in around me. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my stomach twisting with unease. Then she said his name. Ethan Blackwell. A billionaire. Cold, calculating, and utterly untouchable. I had never heard of him before that night, but I soon learned that he was a man who always got what he wanted. Rachel explained it like it was simple math. Ethan would wipe away every cent of the hundreds of thousands of dollars she owed. In exchange, I would become his wife. "You'll live in luxury, Em," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "A mansion, designer clothes, diamonds. You'll never have to worry about money again. He'll take care of you." I wanted to scream. What about what I wanted? I had always been the quiet one. The shy girl with her nose in a book, the one who blushed when someone so much as looked at her for too long. My friends used to tease me about it. "Emily, you're gorgeous. You just don't see it." But I never cared for attention. I had never even been kissed. And now, my sister, the only family I had left, was telling me I had to give myself to a man I had never met. "You can't be serious," I whispered, my voice shaking. Rachel reached for my hands, squeezing them tightly. "I don't have a choice, Emily." "Neither do you." A lump formed in my throat, hot and painful. I should have said no. I should have fought harder. But looking at her, seeing the desperation in her eyes, I knew she was right. We had nothing left. So I swallowed my fear, my dreams, my freedom. And with a trembling voice, I whispered the one word that sealed my fate. "Okay." That was it. With that one word, my life no longer belonged to me. It belonged to Ethan Blackwell. The day I met Ethan Blackwell was the day I stopped belonging to myself. I should have been terrified. Maybe I was. But the moment I stepped into his world, fear became something else, something heavier, something that pressed against my ribs and stole my breath. The wedding happened so fast, I barely had time to process it. One moment, I was standing in front of a mirror, a stranger in a white silk gown. The next, I was walking down the aisle of a grand New York estate, my fingers trembling around the bouquet of roses. And at the end of that aisle, waiting for me, was him. Ethan Blackwell. He was taller than I imagined, broad-shouldered and powerful, his black tuxedo tailored to perfection. His face was chiseled, sharp jawline, piercing gray eyes that locked onto mine with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. He didn't smile. He didn't even blink. He just watched me, as if studying the woman who had just become his. I barely heard the vows. My voice wavered when I whispered, "I do." His didn't. After the ceremony, I was whisked away in a sleek black Rolls-Royce, the city lights blurring past the tinted windows. I sat stiffly beside Ethan, my hands folded in my lap, my breath shallow. His gaze lingered on me, unreadable. "You're nervous," he finally said, his voice deep and smooth, like dark whiskey. I swallowed hard. "Should I be?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips, but it wasn't warm. "That depends on whether you plan on running." My stomach tightened. Running? And go where? There was no escape from this, no undoing what had been done. The car pulled into a towering penthouse overlooking Manhattan. Inside, the place was pure elegance: marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, chandeliers that glittered like diamonds. And yet, I felt like a bird trapped in a golden cage. Ethan poured himself a drink, then leaned against the bar, watching me like a predator watching its prey. "You look terrified, Emily." I straightened my shoulders, forcing strength into my voice. "I don't know you." He tilted his head. "You will." Silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken words. Then he pushed off the bar, closing the space between us in slow, measured steps. I held my breath as he reached out, his fingers skimming a loose strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was light, almost gentle, but it burned like fire. "We can do this the hard way, or we can do this my way," he murmured, his voice laced with something dangerous. I shivered. "And what's your way?" His gray eyes darkened. "You'll see." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake in his bed, my bed now, wrapped in silk sheets, staring at the city beyond the window. Somewhere in this world, I was still Emily Carter, the quiet girl with a love for books and dreams of something more. But here, in Ethan Blackwell's world, I was his wife. And I didn't know if I'd ever be free again. The first few days in Ethan Blackwell's penthouse felt like living inside a storm, silent, unpredictable, charged with something I didn't understand. He wasn't cruel. He didn't force himself on me. But he watched me. Every move I made. Every breath I took. I would wake in the middle of the night to find him sitting in the leather chair across from the bed, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his eyes on me. Studying. Waiting. "You don't sleep much, do you?" I whispered once, my voice barely carrying over the hum of the city outside. He took a slow sip, his gaze never leaving mine. "Neither do you." I should have been afraid of him. Maybe I was. But there was something else, something darker, twisting deep inside me, something that kept me from running. One evening, after yet another silent dinner where tension hung so thick between us it could be cut with a knife, Ethan spoke. "Come with me." It wasn't a request. I followed him to a black Aston Martin, the engine purring as he drove through the neon-lit streets of Manhattan. The city was alive, pulsing with music, honking taxis, laughter spilling from rooftop bars. But inside the car, it was just us. "Where are we going?" I asked. His fingers tapped the steering wheel, his jaw tightening. "You'll see." Minutes later, we pulled up to an exclusive gala, the kind of event where billionaires sipped champagne and whispered about deals worth more money than I could ever imagine. Inside, I was on display. Ethan never let go of my waist, his grip firm, almost possessive. People stared. Women in glittering gowns sized me up, men glanced my way with curiosity. They all wanted to know one thing: who was the girl Ethan Blackwell had claimed as his wife? I felt small. Out of place. Then I heard her. "So this is the girl you bought." The voice was smooth, filled with mockery. A stunning woman with icy blue eyes and red-painted lips stood before us, swirling a glass of wine in her manicured fingers. I stiffened. Bought. That word tasted like poison. Ethan's hand tightened on my waist. "Careful, Olivia," he warned, his tone calm but lethal. She smirked, giving me one last slow glance before walking away. Heat crawled up my neck. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear, but then Ethan turned me toward him, his fingers tilting my chin up. "Don't let them get in your head," he said. "They don't matter." "Do I?" I whispered. Something flickered in his expression. He didn't answer. But that night, when we returned to the penthouse, something shifted. Ethan didn't just watch me from a distance. He touched me. Not forcefully. Not roughly. Just enough to burn. And I didn't push him away. Because maybe, just maybe, I didn't want to. Something changed that night. After the gala, after Olivia's cruel words, after Ethan's hand lingered on my skin just a little longer than necessary, I couldn't pretend anymore. I wasn't just his captive. I wasn't just his wife by contract. I was something more. And so was he. I saw it in the way he watched me, not with cold calculation, but with something else. Something deeper. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stepped out onto the penthouse balcony, the city stretching beneath me, lights flickering like tiny stars. The wind tugged at my silk robe, but I barely felt it. My mind was elsewhere. I didn't hear him approach, but I felt him. You're thinking too much. His voice was low, smooth, like the night itself. I turned to find Ethan standing behind me, a glass of bourbon in his hand, his shirt undone at the collar. His gaze swept over me, slow and deliberate. I swallowed. I don't know how to be here. In this life. He took a sip of his drink, then set it down, stepping closer. You don't have to be anything you're not. A bitter laugh escaped me. That's easy for you to say. You're the one who put me here. Something flickered in his gray eyes. Regret? Guilt? I wasn't sure. I did. His voice was quiet. But that doesn't mean I don't want more. More. The word sent a shiver down my spine. Ethan reached out, his fingers ghosting over my wrist before he slid his palm against mine, his touch warm and steady. He wasn't just taking, he was asking. I didn't pull away. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have held on to my anger, my resentment. But standing there, with the city humming below us and his heartbeat so close to mine, I realized something terrifying. I wanted to know him. The real him. And he wanted to know me. Over the next few weeks, the shift between us became undeniable. He still controlled everything, the places we went, the extravagant gifts that arrived at my door, the way his hand always found the small of my back in a crowded room. But there was something different in his touch now. It wasn't possession. It was protection. Late at night, when he thought I was asleep, I would feel him trace his fingers down my arm, his breath warm against my skin. And one night, when he found me curled up in the library, reading by the fire, he sat beside me. Not saying a word. Just being there. For the first time, I realized Ethan Blackwell wasn't just the man who had bought me. He was the man who was falling for me. And worse, I was falling for him too. I should have fought it. I should have reminded myself who he was, the man who bought me, the man who controlled my life. But by the time I realized the truth, it was already too late. I was his. Not because he owned me. Not because of the contract. But because, somewhere between the nights spent tangled in silk sheets and the stolen glances that burned hotter than fire, I had given myself to him. Completely. And Ethan Blackwell? He had given himself to me, too. It became clear in the smallest of moments. The way he would reach for my hand absent-mindedly, as if needing to feel me. The way his fingers would trace slow, deliberate circles on my skin when he thought I wasn't paying attention. It was in the way he looked at me. Not like something he had claimed, but like something he couldn't bear to lose. One night, after a dinner party where he had barely let me out of his sight, we returned to the penthouse. I expected him to pull me against him, to touch me the way he always did, setting my body on fire with every brush of his hands. But he didn't. Instead, he stood by the window, his broad shoulders tense, his fingers wrapped around a glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. Something was wrong. I approached cautiously, my heart thudding. Ethan? He didn't turn. I was never supposed to feel this way about you. The confession sent a tremor through me. And how do you feel? I whispered. He exhaled, finally looking at me. His gray eyes weren't cold anymore. They were raw, stripped of every layer of control. Like I'd burn the world down if anyone tried to take you from me. A shiver ran down my spine. I should have been afraid of that kind of devotion. But I wasn't. Because, deep down, I felt the same. He set his glass down, closing the space between us in 2 steps. His hands came up to my face, tilting my chin so I had no choice but to meet his gaze. "Tell me you're mine, Emily." His voice was low, edged with desperation. I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering against my skin. "I was always yours." The moment the words left my lips, something inside him snapped. His mouth crashed against mine, his hands gripping my waist as he lifted me effortlessly, carrying me to the bedroom. Our clothes fell away, forgotten, and this time, when he touched me, it wasn't just desire, it was need. We weren't just 2 people thrown together by fate or circumstance. We were something deeper, something unbreakable. And as the city lights flickered beyond the window, I knew this wasn't just passion. This was love. And neither of us would ever escape it. Your thoughts matter. Let's talk. Now that you've followed Emily and Ethan's intense journey, I have just one question for you. What would you do in her place? Would you have fought back? Run away? Or, would you have fallen just like she did? I'd love to hear your thoughts, your theories, and your emotions about this story. Which moment surprised you the most? Did Ethan truly change, or was he always this way deep down? And Emily, was she ever really trapped, or did she always have a choice? Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far our community reaches. Whether you're in the US, Europe, Asia, or anywhere else, your voice matters. And don't forget, the next chapter drops tomorrow. If you don't want to miss what happens next, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's keep this conversation going. Comment below and let me know your thoughts.